Ladies and gentle gamers, welcome back to Be Determined. In today's video, I'm going to explain how to best use the new hotspots and to hotspot fish, both on the Bayou and in the Crimson Isle. If you guys end up enjoying, make sure to drop a like and smash the sub button if you haven't already. We're on our way to 23,000 subscribers, and every single subscription is absolutely free and helps me out more than you know. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So you can see the Bayou is not really a large island, and because of that, it only has two possible hotspots that can be on at a time. You can see there's one here for fishing speed, one here for double hook chance, but if we teleport around the rest of the island, there's not going to be any more. There can only be two hotspots at a time, so they only last for a few minutes, so make sure to go and fish at whichever one is better. Double hook chance is always going to be the best option, so if there's a hotspot with double hook chance, make sure to fish at that one. Second most important is sea creature chance, then fishing speed, and finally treasure fishing chance. So just try and prioritize whichever one has the better stats from the hotspot. As far as the new fishing rod parts go, for hotspot fishing, your best setup is going to be a hotspot hook, a Titan line, and the hotspot sinker. Some of these items are a little expensive right now. The hook and sinker are about 50 mil each, and the line is about 200 mil, so if you can't afford that, don't worry. The speedy line is a lot cheaper, 2.5 million coins right now, and that's the second best line for hotspot fishing. If you can't afford the hotspot sinker, the stingy sinker is pretty good. A 10% chance not to consume bait is pretty nice, but there's not really a good hook other than the hotspot hook, because you don't really want to be catching only common hooks, and phantom hook only works when they're spooky sea creatures, so that's not really going to help out. And you do want to be catching sea creatures, so treasure hook stops you from doing that, so definitely don't want to use that one. Now the big problem that this update introduces is 3 new mobs that are resistant to magic damage. Now before this point, pretty much every single sea creature in the game took a ton of magic damage, so generally the best weapon to use is going to be a Hyperion or some other magic weapon. But the new Wiki Tiki, the Titanoboa, and the Ragnarok all are very resistant to magic damage. Thankfully, to help counter this, the admins did add a new item, the Flaming Flay, and they did buff the Soul Whip as well. So you can see the Soul Whip weapon now deals 2x damage to sea creatures, so these items are pretty cheap. I mean, it's 12.5 million coins, but you have to be a pretty high fishing level to be able to catch these sea creatures, so before that point, it doesn't really matter if you've got a good melee weapon, but this is a pretty valid option for fighting these sea creatures now that they're resistant to magic damage. So my strategy for water fishing is to use a melee power stone for my magical power, because I still get a pretty solid amount of mana, 500. But if you struggle with that, you can always change your stats tunings to intelligence and still use a melee power stone. You can see I have 800 mana now, so whenever I catch a sea creature, it does still take a couple seconds for it to get caught, and then I can spam the hype down, kill it real quick, and then go back to fishing. By the time I catch another sea creature, my mana has regened and I can just rinse and repeat. But that's really if you are the highest level in the lobby, or if nobody else is really killing sea creatures. Generally, other people will accidentally kill your sea creatures by using their Hyperion or whatever magic weapon they're using, so you can probably get away with not even killing your sea creatures and just fishing. But in the case that a Wiki Tiki or a Titanoboa spawns, if you already have melee reforges, you might be able to get away with just staying in your fishing gear and killing it, but these guys tend to survive for 10 to 20 seconds at least. So you can pretty quickly swap to your wardrobe and get your best melee setup damage equipment and pop that on and be able to kill the mob and get loot share pretty easily. You can see right here, whenever I popped into the lobby, there was a Wiki Tiki already, so I just instantly swapped into my Crimson gear and just started hitting it with my Daedalus Axe and my Flaming Flay. And after it's dead, you can swap back to your fishing gear and keep fishing. I do have some pet rules that I use for this, so I have 2 auto pet rules at the moment that I'm using. So the equip wardrobe slot for my melee setup, which is my Infernal Crimson, I have it to equip my G-Drag, which is not only my damage pet, but my magic find pet. So this way I'm getting good magic find whenever I swap into the set, so I have a better chance of loot sharing an item. And I also have, whenever I throw a fishing hook, it'll equip my best fishing pet for whatever I'm doing. Right now, for water fishing, I've been using an Ammonite because I have been using Frozen Blaze armor so that I can get Bestiary. So my sea creature chance isn't great until I use Ammonite. Then I can get it back up to 100% pretty easily. And if you guys are struggling with sea creature chance after the update, they did remove it a lot. One good thing to do is to swap all your enrichments to sea creature chance. You can buy the enrichment swappers from Elizabeth for 200 bits, or you can buy them on the auction house for like 250 to 300,000 coins. It's very cheap to swap them, and it's definitely worth it. You can see for my accessory bag, I'm getting 18.9 sea creature chance, which some of the items just straight up give sea creature chance, but a lot of them are just mythic or legendary accessories that are giving me sea creature chance because of the enrichment. So it does add up to quite a bit if you have a lot of magical power. But that's the gist for water hotspot fishing. Let's talk about Crimson Isle fishing. So for Crimson Isle, I have been using my Magma Lord setup. Frozen Blaze is nice to be able to use, but it's kind of annoying because it's hard to fish without sitting in the lava, and sitting in the lava with Magma Lord gear lets you be immune to the lava, and Frozen Blaze is not. But for the Crimson Isle, you're definitely going to want to have a hotspot radar. You don't really need it for the Bayou because the island's so small, it's easy to find the sections where the hotspots are. But for the Crimson Isle, the map is so big, you definitely want to get your hands on one of these. The recipe's pretty cheap. 1 broken radar, 2 bronze bowls, some iron, and some redstone. And the item does go in museum, so you can also put it in there for some extra skyblock XP. But you just right click with it and it points you to the nearest hotspot. Sometimes you can be picky with it if it's like trophy fishing chance or something like that you don't really need for sea creature fishing. You can just go to the next section. Recommend just teleporting far away. If we didn't want that fishing speed one, let's say it was trophy hunter chance or something like that, we can right click now and see there's another one underneath the ground. So that one's kind of annoying to get to. It'll probably despawn by the time we get to it. So we'll just teleport over here, see if there's one around here. Okay, this is pointing us back over this way. And there's one right here that has sea creature chance, much more likable. So we can just sit in here and get back to fishing. Now for lava fishing, I think it's a lot more applicable to, first off, use the flying fish pet instead. So I'll swap my auto pet rules to flying fish, especially if you have a mythic and Magma Lord gear. It's going to be a lot more useful and help you get to 100% sea creature chance and have good fishing speed on top of that. But for this, I generally just call Maxwell, swap to sided, and I'll just stay on sided and use a fire veil wand, because generally with lava fishing, you're going to get Ragnarok Bestiary last. So sometimes you'll be able to get kills on these smaller mobs from other players if everybody's fishing in the same group. I've had a couple lobbies where we had like 10 plus people fishing in the same spot, so I was able to get a lot of bestiary that way. But generally, most people in those parties, for lava fishing at least, are going to be using the fire veil wand. It just makes it a lot easier to kill the mobs fast. You're more worried about killing mobs fast in lava fishing than you are about bestiary most of the time, until it comes to Ragnarok bestiary. So loot sharing Ragnaroks is a little bit trickier if you didn't spawn it. So if somebody else spawns a Ragnarok, generally what I'll do is I'll swap to my Crimson setup just like usual, and then I'll call Maxwell while I'm hitting him with the Flaming Flay, and then swap to Hurtful and just keep hitting him. So you can see it doesn't take too long to swap your magical power if you have his Abiphone contact, which his Abiphone contact only costs like 2 ultimate carrot candies or something. It's very cheap. But after the Ragnarok dies, you can just call Maxwell and swap back to the Sided Reforge or Bazaar, whatever you want to use if you have it, and then go back to fishing. So again, my strategy is to just sit in the lava and right click with Fire Veil, catch something real quick. After you catch it, use the Fire Veil and go back. Eventually, if the mob does get to you, it will die from the Fire Veil most of the time. Unless it's like a Thunder or a Jawbus or a Ragnarok, you'll usually be able to handle those pretty well. Now, as far as killing the new fiery scuttlers, those are also one of the new mobs that spawns from lava hotspots. They do take magic damage. However, they do have a 5-second cooldown like most legendary sea creatures before you can loot share off of them. So if you didn't spawn it and somebody else spawned one, it's going to take you a minute before you can do some damage to it. But generally, if you're in a big group, it's honestly good to not wait for that damage threshold to disappear. They have such a small amount of health that if you just use Fire Veil on them and then just spam your hype until you're out of mana, you're generally going to deal more damage than a lot of the players that try and wait for that 5-second cooldown to be up, because by the time it's up, one person will hit it twice and it'll be dead. And 5 players get loot share. So if you are already doing a bunch of damage to it before that cooldown is up, odds are you'll be in the top 5. Now again, I've been using the Flaming Flay as my main weapon for fighting against the Ragnaroks. They are very tough and they move around a lot, so it's better to be able to use a ranged melee weapon rather than the close range day axe, which is a lot more applicable in water. Now that was all in the case that somebody else spawns a Ragnarok or a Scuttler, but if you spawn one, you want to get good magic find against it. So make sure to swap to your magic find setup and hold a day axe if you have it, and preferably have a auto pet rule as well for whatever your magic find setup is. For me, I'll usually be sitting in my Magma Lord setup and then click onto my Crimson so it equips my G-Drag, and then click onto my Sorrow. Just hold this. And if you have magic find equipment, you can try swapping to that before the mob dies. Usually you're not going to get it off if it's just a fiery scuttler, or even if it's a Titana boa or something like that from the Bayou. But if you spawn something big, even on the Bayou, you want to make sure that you get as much magic find as possible, because a lot of these drops are going for over 100 million coins each. So you want to get the highest chance you can to drop these good drops. Now, I would like to clarify something for blaze fishing specifically. If you see somebody blaze fishing in the Bayou, like they're using this frozen blaze armor that I'm wearing, please don't sit in the hotspot and use a fire veil. Again, the Bayou only has 2 possible hotspots, so everybody's going to fish at whichever the better one is. And if you're killing all the mobs with fire veil, then the person with frozen blaze is not getting bestiary. And that's why we're wearing frozen blaze, is to get bestiary. I've done probably 14, maybe more hours of fishing on this update, and I've had to swap lobbies so many times because I was getting griefed by somebody using fire veil, so I couldn't get bestiary. I think it's mainly because a lot of people don't realize that it is griefing against bestiary, so just make sure not to use it if somebody's using frozen blaze in your lobby. But that is everything you need to know about hotspot fishing and how to handle the new magic resistant sea creatures. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to drop a like, smash the sub button. And again, this update just came out like 3 days ago, so if new strategies are discovered, I'll probably have something about it in the pinned comment, or I might end up making a whole new video about it. So make sure to keep an eye on the pinned comment, and I'll catch you on the next one. Have an amazing rest of your day, and God bless.